Security Breach Ruin gave us way more questions than answers, to be honest. And while we're beginning to settle on some speculation, there's still a lot of mysteries about the game that completely elude us. So I wanted to go through what we still don't know about the game and compile as much information as we currently have, and who knows, maybe one of you can figure it out for us. So slices, put on your aprons, and let's bake ourselves a theory. Let me be a bit more specific on things we don't know about. Literally 90% of the grander story of these games is speculation, so technically we don't know anything for certain, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're also not talking about questions that we frankly just don't have the answers to yet. Things like, what happened to Cassie at the end of the game, or is Gregory actually okay? We just need more games to figure that out. This video is specifically about mysteries within Ruin, where seemingly all the hints to answer them are also within Ruin, we just haven't cracked it yet. So without any further ado, we'll start with the messiest mystery, Chica's voice box, and what it's meant to do. One of the strangest parts of Security Breach was Chica's feeding frenzy, or rather the absence of it. In the base game, we could get several bits of lore by playing different arcade machines throughout the Pizzaplex, typically doing something specific within it. Balloon World got us some strange cutscene and a tease to GGY, Princess Quest gave us a whole ending in Freed Vanny, and Monty's Gator Golf was there. But one machine mentioned in the duffel bag messages never makes an appearance. Chica's feeding frenzy. A message teased its importance, letting us know that even when unplugged, it kept running. And people found the model for the machine by going out of bounds, and there was even a hitbox by the press E button, implying it was meant to be used. But in the final game, we not only had no way to access it, but even if you did, the E button just didn't do anything. In fact, the whole area that it was meant to be hidden inside of, Chica's bakery, is never important. It's accessible, and there's even an upgrade hidden inside there, but we're never ever pointed that way, nor is it ever relevant to the plot of the game. Many players, myself included, didn't even know it existed until somebody else pointed it out to them. The whole thing kind of felt like it was originally planned to be there, but it was cut for time. But Ruin decided to revitalize it. If you wiggle your way off track in Chica's bakery, you'll find yourself in this broken up bathroom with a tunnel leading to this Chica shrine. In the center, Chica's feeding frenzy. Guess we're all done. This game is essentially Journey of the Prairie King from Stardew Valley, but on steroids. Luckily for me, I've romanced Abigail like half of my Stardew playthroughs, so I am an expert at chibi little shooter games. Because you have to make it through all 20 waves of this game to be rewarded with Chica's voice box. A little random and a little wild, but it doesn't end there. Much later in the game, near the end of Roxy's salon, you watch Chica walk past you, go into a bathroom, and seemingly shut off for good. Granted, she'll still kill you if you touch her, but she doesn't move from that spot for the rest of the game. However, while she's down there, you can actually repair her. If you go up to her while holding the voice box, you're prompted to hit E. If you do, you can actually put it in there, Chica says a voice line, shuts down again, but then the trash bag that was in her stomach the whole time falls out. And then, nothing. That's kind of it. As far as anyone can figure, this whole quest line ends there. So, mystery 1. What's this for? What's supposed to happen here? I'm kind of mixed on this one, because while there very much could be more to this that I'm just not seeing or hints that we're missing, it could just be nothing. Or even more likely, it could again be something that was planned for the final game and was cut for time. Or maybe the idea was too ambitious, or it didn't line up with the themes they were going for in the game. Any number of reasons. I will say though, I don't think it's an accident that the only animatronic we get to repair is Chica. When Cassie first sees Chica, she's scared for a moment, but ultimately she feels bad for her.
Chica? What happened to you? You look awful.
Cassie feels bad that Chica has been hurt and is worried for her. Immediately between that and her affinity towards Roxy in the lobby, we get the sense that Cassie's not only a very caring individual, but personally cares for these animatronics. That being said, story-wise, it would make sense that an optional quest line would be to repair all 4 animatronics as best we can. But there's more evidence than just it makes sense. Near the end of the game, there's one table that I've always been particularly interested in. It has all 4 of the main Security Breach animatronics in plushie form, with specific damage done to them that matches the damage done to the main animatronic counterparts. Chica's without her beak, Roxy's without her eyes, Freddy is without his head, and Monty is without his legs. At first, I thought it was just to show as a cool metaphor. You know, it's see no evil, speak no evil, give head to no evil, no legs anymore. You know, the classic saying. But this is right at the end of the game. It's right before we encounter Roxy and deactivate her. It's frankly the last thing we can do before going underground. It almost seems like it would be a perfect marker for something you could have done along your journey, like progress on repairing the animatronics. What if at some point in development, Chica wasn't the only animatronic planned to be able to be repaired, but all of them were, maybe even with Chica as an entry point. After all, the Monty plushie is missing his legs here and in the game, but at the Monty shrine you can get in this glitched out area, Monty's legs are there. Chica shrine, Chica voice box, Monty shrine, Monty's legs. I could 100% see Roxy and Freddy having their own hidden shrines, each with a piece of them there. Now, it might not be the same piece, but eyes for Roxy and a head for Freddy to use. This could even explain the null ending. In the code of the game, there's 4 programmed spaces for endings. The first one, neutral ending, shows the elevator. The second one, scooper ending, shows that scooper ending. And the third one, Brazil, shows the ending where you put your fanny mask on in the chase. But there is a 4th ending just labeled null. Now, this could just be a placeholder. This could just be extra space in case they were going to add a 4th ending. We don't know, but perhaps it was meant to be a 4th final separate ending for repairing all 4 animatronics. And why does Chica's stomach bag fall out when you repair her? That could be the first step into getting Roxy or Freddy's parts. Something in that bag could be a key to something else. But to be fair, that is like entirely speculation based off of cool ideas. There isn't really much evidence for it at all, because frankly, there's not a lot of evidence for Chica's voice box mattering at all. So realistically, does repairing Chica affect the game in any way? That's mystery 1. Next up is the one that honestly most people are trying to solve right now, Glamrock Bonnie. Specifically, what happened to him and what is his relation with the wet floorbots. We all remember in Security Breach how Bonnie was just MIA. Like, Foxy wasn't there either, but he was completely wiped from the lore. There was accessories and like memorabilia of Foxy, but that was it. Bonnie seemed like he was here, but isn't now. We had Bonnie Bowl, we had the duffel bag messages mentioning that he was last seen at Monty Golf and that they don't have an official like statement for what happened to him. The game is practically begging us to figure out what happened to everyone's second favorite purple rabbit. No one is better than you, Ravio. But the case goes cold there. But once again, Ruin took an older question mark and added more context to it, if not adding a few more question marks. We get a lot more info about Glamrock Bonnie in Ruin, starting with presumably the official message that Fazbear eventually came up with Bonnie's absence for, calmly passing the torch to Monty and stepping down from the band. But we also get access to Bonnie himself, or what's left of him. Throughout the game, there are these wet floor bots that turn away from Cassie when you approach, but if you put on the Vanny mask, not only do they look at you, but they release this weird crying chorus of screaming children, almost as if asking for help. We can deactivate the wet floor bots while wearing the mask, and then they shut off. If you do this to every wet floor bot in the game, eventually one more wet floor bot spawns right outside of one of the bowling alleys. Next to that lane, if you turn off the wet floor bot, the pin area opens up, and behind it is a back room with a destroyed but active Glamrock Bonnie, surrounded by 4 wet floor bots. And if you deactivate those 4 wet floor bots, Bonnie finally deactivates himself. We can all agree that this means something, but what it means is still elusive to a lot of us. Some information we get here is that whether or not Bonnie was destroyed in this location, he was definitely further damaged while being in here. There's a large break on the center of his head, surrounded by broken pieces of bowling ball. Like a crime scene, we can see that the bowling ball hit him in this back room, whether or not he was initially destroyed there. Not only that, but it tells us that likely an animatronic was the one that did it. After all, you'd have to be pretty goddamn strong to break a bowling ball by throwing it down. So that does point to being Monty, but that doesn't make a lot of sense in total to me. First of all, and I've wanted to say this for a while, I have no idea why a lot of the fandom is so convinced, like almost saying it's confirmed convinced, that Monty was so jealous of Bonnie's position in the band that he destroyed him to take his role. Like, guys, I love these characters. I think these are great, interesting characters. I love the designs. It's really cool. But Monty is a robot, like a programmed animatronic built by people to entertain children. apron, not an actual person with feelings and emotions. Why in the hell would they program it to be so jealous of another animatronic that it would destroy the property of the company? And sure, I get it. The M.E.C.S program infested all of the animatronics and took their safe but quirky personalities and cranked them to a dangerous degree. That's why Monty is so destructive when we see him. But are we really to assume that he's that destructive back then? Think about it. If he was already at the state that we see him in the game back then, why would they have put him on stage at all? Like, if Monty is so destructive they have to keep him in his backstage room for most of the time, why would they put him on stage in front of a bunch of kids next to other destroyable animatronics? That's an accident waiting to happen. Not to mention, again, if Monty really does have these complex feelings and emotions, the only character we have any evidence of Monty disliking is Freddy. Freddy is the one in the dumpster in this arcade machine. Freddy is the statue that's demolished in his lore ride. He never shows any aggression towards Bonnie evidentiarily, but he does to Freddy. For a long time, I had been working under the assumption that Vanny used Monty, just changed his programming, to destroy Glamrock Bonnie so she could use the parts of Bonnie to help recreate Burn Trap. But now that we've seen all of Bonnie, that theory's bubkiss. We see all the parts for Bonnie in that back room and none of them made its way into Burn Trap. So Burn Trap is primarily Springtrap based, we can assume. But the method still tracks. Like, I could still see Vanny using Monty as a tool to destroy Bonnie. But now we don't have a motive. Why was Bonnie destroyed? And again, that's not the only mystery here with Bonnie. What is the deal with these wet floor bots? The power and activation of Bonnie is directly tied to these wet floor bots, and the bots being deactivated are tracked in the code as souls. Something is here for sure, but right now we really don't know why. It doesn't seem like we'll get more answers on this in the future, so hopefully the answer is somewhere in this game. I've seen some people suggest that Glamrock Bonnie is reaching out through the wet floorbots to try to find help or keep an eye on the Pizzaplex, but frankly, that's just pure speculation. We don't have any evidence either way, which is fine. I just hope we can find evidence. It's just one of those questions that we really have no inkling towards, but it's not the most cryptic question still in ruin. That one goes to our last mystery, the tally marks. I was gonna cut to green screen here, but before I do, I've literally been brushing him for 5 minutes. This is a 5-minute brush. My lord. Anyway, one of the strangest rooms in this entire game is also probably the scariest one. Granted, it's not actually scary, but the lore implications of this room are horrifying and wide-stretching. On the way to Bonnie Bowling, there's a hallway with 4 rooms in it. Each of them seem particularly interesting, but the one we're talking about today is filled with Scrap and Circus Baby plushes. They laugh at you, and when you look away from them, they disappear one by one. And finally, in the corner is a bunch of tally marks and a turned-away chair. Now, this isn't just someone counting the days up, because they're in sets of 2, 4, and 5 specifically. There's never a 1 or 3, and it's not just one big block of numbers. This feels like a code, and that feeling is backed up by the fact that in Bonnie Bowling proper, way high above the alleys, there's another tally mark code, again in just 2s, 4s, and 5s. This feels like Ruin's secret room code from Security Breach, like that triangle code that Daco and his community solved. This code feels like that, but for Ruin. But so far, we have no idea what to do. But I do think I have 2 leads. One of them I saw people bring up on the Reddit, and that was that these whiteboards from the party rooms in the daycare theater have tally marks on them. I'll display all the ones we know of right here. Maybe one or some or all of these is the key to the code that we can then use to crack the code. So maybe this is important, it could just be nothing. However, I think I found a second lead. I've been going through the FNAF security logbook for the first time myself. Frankly, even though I've been in the fandom since FNAF 1, I've never really bought any of the books until this channel was my job. I just couldn't really excuse spending money on a book, you know? At least a book about FNAF. But I've been going through it myself because I've only ever heard other people talk about it, so I wanted to see if there was anything I could pick up going through it personally. First off, there will eventually be a video on this book, and I definitely think that Cassidy is a hint this game is giving us. Like, this book is pointing heavily to Cassidy, or at least the name Cassidy, so we'll go into that later. Regardless, there's something in this book that I haven't really seen brought up much. Now, it might be a whole thing and I've just missed it. I don't know what the fandom is talking about at all times, but as far as I'm aware, not a lot of solving has been devoted to the strange tally marks in the book. Mike leaves several different tally marks like 5 or 6 times in this book, and they're always 4s and 5s. Granted, this doesn't line up perfectly. I've never seen any 2s here, but regardless, this might be the biggest lead we have in cracking this code. So here's my ask to you, Slices. Here's every image I could find of the tally marks within the FNAF security logbook and the page number they're on. Is it important? I don't know. But look into this ruined tally mark code. Try to crack it. There might be clues or keys, or they might not be, and this might just be unrelated information. I don't know. I wish you luck, but honestly, while I feel like I'm getting pretty good at using story beats to figure out mysteries, I have never once been good at cracking codes. That's just not how my brain works. I don't even know where to start. But if you want some background noise while you're working, I just started a brand new FNAF themed podcast, Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. You can check it out right here on this channel or on any major podcast streaming service. I'm talking Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. I've spread it around as much as I can. It would really mean the world to me, and I'm so happy about the amazing reception it's gotten so far. In the meantime, a huge shout out to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, Slices.